Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Okay, so who is the guest on this week's episode, I hear you all ask? Well, why don't we find out? Let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Okay, wow, what another absolutely fantastic collection. And again, it's something very close to my own heart, Star Wars. It is a pleasure to welcome Matt from Matt's Collection to the channel. How are you doing, sir? Good to meet you, my friend.
Great. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Really appreciate you taking the time for doing this.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Thank you for accepting, I've got to say. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. So you were saying earlier that you're pretty familiar with the format. So
yes.
I've got 10 questions for you, all about you and your collection. The run time's normally about an hour. Doesn't matter if we sort of go over. So that's okay. So no worries there. So don't feel pressured at all on having to rush. Good. Okay, so first question. What are your childhood memories and what toy lines were you into?
Well, like before 1977, it was, I remember a lot of like watching the old Spider-Man cartoon when I got, in the afternoons. And a lot of the toy lines I had back then, where I had like the old Micronauts. I don't know if you remember those.
I vaguely remember the name.
Sci-fi
Yeah,
guys, and they were really cool. They really remind me of like the old GI Joes with like the O-ring kind of. That was the same kind of articulation those had.
Yeah.
I also like Adventure People. My best friend and I, there was a stream behind his house. We had a bunch of Adventure People and we, floating the boats down the stream and everything else.
Yeah.
And then, the 1970s, the summer 1977 happened, and my dad takes 6-year-old me and my brother, and we go to see this new movie, Star Wars. And I got to admit, it's probably one of my most vivid childhood memories with my dad sitting there, with the big tub of popcorn and just, I mean, because I'd seen movies and stuff before, but that was,
Yeah.
when you see that first, I'm 6 years old, just out of kindergarten. My dad had to read the opening crawl to me because it was, I couldn't read that fast. And, so, and then, you're sitting there watching, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then all of a sudden that Star Destroyer comes over and you're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
I think everybody who sees that for the first time. And
So
so
when
after
you-
that,
so-
it was really Star Wars for me.
So when you did you have any expectations of the film? Did you have any idea what the film was about? I mean, being 6, it was probably
At the
difficult
time,
to.
you got to remember, at 77, it was, I mean, it really became a phenomenon after it was released. It really was. I mean, when Star Wars was first released, it was a very limited release, and then it was such a hit. That was the first, what they call a block. I mean, that was what defined the term blockbuster, because people were lining up around the block to watch this movie, and that never really happened before. I mean, maybe Jaws the year prior, but
Yeah.
But, that was one of the big things there. And so, yeah, I walked into this movie, and it was just like, it was, I was a 6-year-old kid. I didn't know anything, from nothing. And it was like, but seeing that movie and just seeing what happens in it, the music, this, you didn't see movies like that before. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like science fiction before that, you look at something like, the 2001, a fantastic movie. But when you look at like everything in science fiction, everything like Space 1999, other shows like that, everything is very sterile in every way. And you look at, everything in Star Wars, it's gritty, it's lived in, it's, I mean, the Millennium Falcon, they call it a piece of junk, and and it's, everything is just, the dirt and grime and grit, and it's everything's lived in and used, and it was so different. And then instead of having like some kind of like techno disco type music in it, you got this vast, huge orchestra and everything else, and all the different aliens in the cantina and everything. It was just it's just one of those things that was like, it just blew my mind. I mean, obviously, and it really kind of started me down this. It was about a year later when all of a sudden the toys are. I mean, even before Kenner started the line, I mean, I was sitting there, I was making, I would take pieces of paper and make like X-Wings and TIE fighters and stuff. And, it was like kind of making my own little toys.
Yeah.
Kind of crafting stuff like that, and it was, it was my friend, we're out there with wiffle ball bats, using them as lightsabers and everything. So it really changed it for me.
Toy companies were really, well, Kenner were really caught with their pants down, weren't they? Because they didn't expect the film to be such a hit.
No,
that is why. Well, there you are. And so it was a year afterwards, wasn't it? It was 78, wasn't it, that the first figures came out?
It was. I remember the first commercial for them was when they had that the holiday special came out, and oh, good Lord, I mean, I can remember watching. I was almost 7. That came out. And I was like, it's like the old Christmas variety shows. I get, but you watch it now. It's,
yeah, I know.
Even George Lucas said he wished he could just get every copy of that and just smash them all with a hammer. And like, why did I do? But I mean, if you remember, that was like they had the commercials for the toys there because they had some prototype stuff, but they weren't in mass production yet. I mean, that was the the early bird kit. You had to you could mail away for an empty box, and in a few months later you would get something, and it wasn't until like that summer, the summer of 78, we went on a big vacation. We like drove across country. So it was like long days in the car and stuff. And the first day, my parents, because they knew we were just going to be sitting in the car, that's when I got my first Star Wars figures. I got this little guy who is very well loved and play with. Kind of been played with a bit.
And that's your childhood Luke.
This is the first. This is what started my entire collection.
That is amazing
right here.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like you've had Action Figure Grader on a few weeks ago, and I was watching that.
Yeah,
I've always kind of gone back and forth. It would just be hilarious for me to just send this into AFA and get it graded. It'd probably come back as a 0. But for me, it's priceless. It's like, this is what spawned all of this.
That
So
is awesome.
yeah.
So is he the only figure that you've got as a
Oh
child
no,
from
no, I
your
have
childhood?
all of other
All of them?
than I have pretty much everything. I'm not all of them are complete. I mean, all those little Leia blasters. I can't find any of them.
Yeah.
I recently it was probably about 6 to 8 months ago. I finally went. I with my collection as far when it comes to vintage is I don't really go and get more vintage than what I had as a kid. I don't
Yeah.
want to. But I
Yeah.
was like I kind of decided I found a loophole as I remember because I had a Jawa when I was a kid.
Mm.
And I was like, maybe I should just replace it because I lost them. Like Yoda's cane is lost, stuff like that. A lot of the accessories are missing.
Yeah.
Probably in my yard somewhere. It's probably still there. But it's just like because, but yeah. So I mean, other than that, yeah, really, it's like all the vintage you see in my collection as far as action figures and stuff, those are my childhood toys.
I think there's more of a charm to that, and I think for me, I personally regret not having my childhood Star Wars
Yeah.
toys. I do have them here. But they're not mine. I got these off of eBay,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've got figures that I never had. So I'm a few short from actually having the
Having
whole
all the
lot.
'96, yeah.
But I think I've mentioned it before to someone else that I can look there and think these are great. They remind me of my childhood, but they're not mine
Oh
from
yeah.
my childhood. I think it would be a different feeling if I sat there and looked at them and think, yeah, these were mine as a kid. I would love that feeling.
Yeah, I mean it's neat. I don't know if I can, because I've just always had these, and it's why
Yeah,
and it's kind of why
yeah,
I don't want more. So
yeah,
I understand that. So it's I'm happy with this, and it's like I think like it's like looking at like the retro vintage figures that are coming out, and a lot of
yeah,
people go for
yeah.
those, and I'm like oh I'm like oh those are cool, but I've got those guys already, and then I blame Tim for Boss Bounty as I'm getting. Uh, because
He's got a lot to
I
answer
did.
for, hasn't he?
Well, no, I know. Well, so Tim, if you're watching, this is your fault. As I'm picking these up. But the thing is I probably won't even take these out of the box. I haven't
Wow.
decided what I'm going to do with them yet.
Yeah,
I might,
yeah.
other than I might put them up because but I mean, as far as the retro vintage goes, like the two
Mm,
Mandalorian lines and the Obi, I know you can see it right there. That's
but there,
the
yeah.
Obi-Wan line right there. And
Okay,
it's actually behind my head. I don't know if the chair's
okay.
right, but I have the second wave of the. I have both waves of the retro vintage
Yeah.
Mandalorian figures. The others are still kind of packed away. I haven't brought them out yet. This is stuff that got delivered in my time when I was gone. Yeah, that was another thing. Thanks a lot, Hasbro, for just releasing everything while I wasn't here to get it.
Oh
Because
no,
even my kids, Dad, you got more minifigures today. I'm like, oh no,
that's
that's not my
awesome. That is
fault.
awesome. Um, so what was it? What was your first memory? Because obviously with that Luke, I'm guessing it was a present, or did you actually go to the shop and get it yourself
No,
with your
it was
parents?
a gift. Like I said, we were on a kind of a road trip, camping trip across country, and it was our first day,
Right.
long day in the car. And
Okay.
my parents just handed me this bag, and here, these are for you for while we're on the drive. But it was like I got Luke and the Tusken Raider. My sister got the Chewbacca, which
Oh
is
well.
in
Okay.
there, and then my brother got I think the C-3PO and R2-D2, and they all ended
Oh,
up with
cool.
me at some point because I was the big Star Wars fan.
So what was your first memory of going into the shop then and seeing the whole store with the aisle full of
Oh,
Star Wars stuff?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
we used to do that all the
Yeah,
time.
I'm
We'd go to
liking
the
that
mall.
reaction.
Oh yeah, I can remember. Yeah, I remember as a kid all the time. We had there was a Toys R Us that was a little further away. I didn't really go to that one, but there
Yeah.
used to be a chain of stores, toy stores, and they were all in the malls here called KB Toys. I don't know if you've heard of it
Okay.
or not. They went out of business years
Okay. No,
ago.
I probably wouldn't have heard of them.
But yeah, we'd go in there and they had pegs full of everything. It was like, and it's like I look at like, with Hasbro's had distribution issues for a couple decades now,
Oh
trying to
wow.
find stuff. Well, luckily there's the internet, so I mean it just.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so the old days of driving around on a Saturday looking for new toys or finding this, going out on the street day trying to find stuff is just kind of a thing of the past with me. But yeah, as a kid, we used to go and just look at everything they had there, and it's like, and I start thinking about, like what stuff that they talk about, like I think the the original Millennium Falcon. That was one toy that I didn't have as a kid, but it
Okay.
was, well, me and my best friend, between the two of us, we had everything. Like I had the Death Star, he had the Millennium Falcon, stuff like
Okay. Yeah.
we had, so I didn't really feel like I missed out on it because we just played with,
Yeah.
with our toys together all the time. And I was like, hey, can I borrow the Falcon tonight? I want to, and yeah, sure. And, he'd borrow stuff from me all the time too. And so it was, I never felt like I was really missing anything like that. So, but yeah, I was like, you think about it. I mean, that thing was, they talk about like, if you watch, like, there's like toy documentaries, like on Netflix and stuff. And they talk about like, like this was like a real expensive toy at the time. And it was like $30. I'm like,
yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I could have saved up my allowance and picked that up myself. But I was like, wow. I have like, yeah, but I mean, I think like the original, the Kenner Death Star, and I still have mine. I still have mine. You can see it in the in my room tour on my channel, and that it again well played with. But it's got I mean, other than I've had to replace the foam because it deteriorated, but I mean that thing retailed for like, it was like $12.
That's, I mean, crazy.
Crazy. I mean, I don't know what, I mean, just for inflation and stuff at the time, when they just set, I mean, you're talking 78 till 2022 now, and it's I don't know what it is in adjusted dollars, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, that's a couple of weeks of allowance for me back then. I could have
saved that easily.
I remember. Yeah, I remember going to the stores as a kid. I was like, oh, let's see what figures we could find. Yeah, running in there with our money and stuff. Yeah, it was great times back then.
So was it just Star Wars that you were into as a kid, and that was your main collection, or would you like?
I would say
interested in anything else? Or,
after 77, Star Wars was everything to me. I mean, I still like stuff like Spider-Man. I did read. Yeah, I read in comic. I have some really good older Marvel comics of Spider-Man, and and I still have those too. Oh wow! But this is like in the mid '80s stuff, like like when Todd McFarlane started drawing for Marvel on Amazing Spider-Man, and then he had his own. I got those too. I've got a few old Marvel Star Wars comics.
Oh,
not too many. Okay. Not too many. But then but it was pretty much Star Wars from age 6 to 12. And about, and around the time, a little after Return of the Jedi, I kind of, before even all 96 figures were out, I was kind of, it was starting to change a little bit. And it was like, I was a little more into, it was a little more into girls and stuff like that.
So that was going to lead me into my next question then. That's quite, so when did you realize you were a collector and started collecting again? Because like you've just said, you got to a certain age and then other things sort of like took over from like your
I mean,
and stuff like that.
I mean, as a kid, when in those, from 77 to 83, I didn't really consider myself a collector. These were just my toys. I didn't really. It's not like there was an internet. I didn't know Steve Sansweet was a thing. Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about it like that until I think it was about. I had the stuff, and I wasn't going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was probably, I would say I started collecting in earnest about 99 when Phantom Menace came out, because then I kind of, I remember in 95 when like Hasbro got the license and they were releasing the newer, they were releasing Power of the Force 2.
Yeah.
And, they were like, I call it the He-Man era, when everybody was like, they're all muscle bound and stuff. And I ended up going back and getting a few of those, but
yeah,
kind of my thing right now is with my collection is I want like the most accurate looking, like the definitive version of a figure. Like Walmart with their finish, the 96, they released a Stormtrooper, and I got a handful of them. I want that's the definitive original trilogy trooper, I mean, stuff like that. That's the stuff I like. I mean, when they've come out with these photo real faces on a 4-inch figure.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, honestly, I've talked about it before. That Bo-Katan that came out, and she's up there, right there, with by the Razor Crest, and like all the Mandalorian stuff there. I mean, it's just, it looks so much like Katie Sackhoff. I mean, it's like It's like
Yeah,
a
I know.
miniaturized Katie Sackhoff. It's amazing what they've done with that stuff. So I
It is
do like
incredible.
that stuff with the modern figures. And as far as,
Yeah.
I don't really go into, I don't, like I said, I'm not really collecting vintage. But, and also, I mean, so as far, the action figures, but I also kind of like prop replicas and stuff like Force Effects. Force Effects lightsabers. I just love getting getting like that dark saber that came out from the Black Series a couple of years back, and even that Rey's lightsaber that came out earlier this year. Because I think honestly, as far as accurate, the way you turn that one on and off is, it's the same as in the movie.
Yeah.
It's much way more accurate. That because like the one at Galaxy's Edge is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I have a bunch of stuff from. I mean, I've never seen a place more designed to separate me from money than Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, yeah.
Right there, holocrons. I've got 2 Savi's lightsabers here that I've built. I mean, I ended up getting a Vader's lightsaber from there. For Doc Ondar's, I was like, I can't go in there without somebody holding me. Take my wallet.
So what was it about the lightsabers that got you into collecting the lightsabers? Because they're quite a, I'd say, niche thing, but they're expensive.
They are.
I
no,
can tell you that.
It's not a.
It's not a cheap hobby.
No, it is definitely not a cheap hobby. I have
what was your first lightsaber?
Actually, that was a gift I got when Master Replicas. There was a company they were making prop replicas, and they started with the Force Effects lightsabers. And I had been kind of looking at they had these little about half scaled saber hilts, and it really started me down. There was a friend of mine was going to Celebration 3, and I was like, hey, if you could you get me? They had an Obi-Wan saber that was like dark chrome, and I thought that looks really cool. That would look good on my desk. And I was like, could you get that for me, and I'll pay you back? He's like, yeah, no problem. So he brought me that, and then that was like, that was like crack. So I just had to keep getting more.
That was
so I was like, yeah, it was like, well, in the Air Force, I was in the Air Force for 20 years, and my call sign was Obi-Wan.
No, really?
Yeah. So
awesome.
yeah, so it was kind of funny with that. So it's like, so I kind of have that kind of a focus in my collection.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, so I mean, so I have a lot of that. So, but the first Force Effects labor I got was actually a Darth Vader one.
Okay.
That my brother got for me for Christmas, and so then I started getting I got a few more. They finally made, and I love the hilt is Obi-Wan's saber hilt from the Force, not the Force Awakens, the Phantom Menace.
Okay,
that thing is just so elegant, and it's just beautiful. And they finally were going to make that. It was right around the time that Master Replicas was losing the license. They had it, it was in the pipeline, but they lost the license. But eventually Hasbro picked that stuff up, and that's what you get with the Black Series now. So they put that one out, or I can't remember if that was it, or if Master Replicas put it out, and then I got it. I had to look at the box. I still have the box for it, but that was one I was just like, oh, I have to have that, because I do have. If you see it in my room tour video, there's I have a bunch of Master Replica prop replicas.
Yeah.
The Obi-Wans I have one from each of the prequel movies. And so I have his Revenge of the Sith one. I have the Elite, Phantom Menace one. That one is absolutely just beautiful.
So what are the main differences then? Because you've got, like you say, you've got legacy lightsabers from Galaxy's Edge. You've got the Black Series one, and then you've got the FX ones that you were talking about. What are the differences between the 3 lightsabers?
Well, the one thing with the Savi's sabers and the legacy sabers, and they didn't really. I mean, a lot of Master Replicas, you couldn't take the blade out.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, these here, and this is I have this one here, but I can take the blade out just pull it out like that. So then I have, so it's really kind of,
So which one's this? This is legacy.
This is a Savi's.
Oh. Okay, Savi's
one. Yeah, let's put the camera there.
Okay.
This is the second one I actually built.
Okay.
And, so we did this one. We did this one at Disney World about a year ago. I've had this one, and I really like it. This one is the one that's kind of special to me, though. It was the first one I built, and I just love the look of it. Put that down. is this one here. This is the Elemental Nature one.
Okay.
So it's got
Yeah,
like,
that's
you know,
pretty
this
cool. I
is,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really's got a good feel, and well, it's got the Rancor tooth, which, you know, if you really need it, it's a nice little back scratcher. But
Awesome.
yeah, these, I mean, yeah, I just love these things, you know, because you can, you know, they have like, they have, you can take out the Kyber crystal. This is what you start with. You
Okay.
take a crystal.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
And I can take this. This is the crystal that I got. You know, I picked out while we were building it.
Yep.
And if you look over there, right there, there's a Jedi
Yeah.
holocron.
Holocron. Yep.
I can put this in that holocron, and you'll hear it's actually Obi-Wan from the original trilogy.
Oh wow.
And so I was like, oh, I was like, I hit the jackpot with
That
this,
is
with
awesome.
this saber. Yeah. So
Absolutely awesome.
then they have, yeah, they do have the legacy sabers. They're a little different. They're a little more like prop replica. This is, you know, is I have it. It's in a box still. It's like I said, I'm still
That's okay.
kind of unpacking.
Cool.
But yeah, they're more of like a prop replica type. But you can put a blade in them, and I do.
Yeah.
I have a, you know, because I have like brackets to put them on the wall.
Yeah.
So they display so well. Like
yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so
definitely.
yeah, I'm hoping that this back wall is I'm gonna do like I did in my old office, and I'm hoping I can get all 10 of my movie posters up, and in between them put sabers that were from the movies.
Awesome.
So yeah,
That'd be
that's
cool.
my
That'd
plan.
be cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
good
get
luck
there
with that.
eventually. I'm taking my time doing this.
Yeah, well, listen, that's the whole thing. It's you know, you don't want to rush these things. I think half the
Oh, no.
enjoyment is by taking your time getting it set
Yeah.
up. I've also noticed in your collection you've got a fair few sideshow or Hot Toys
I
figures.
do have a handful. They're not hot. It was when Sideshow was making the figures. These are they're a little older.
The sideshow.
Yeah. So
how many of those do you have, and which was your first one?
Okay, the first one I got, it was one of the Obi-Wans. I think it was a Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan.
Okay.
And then they came out with an Attack of the Clones one in the armor from the Tartakovsky animated show. And yeah, that one's really great.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I got the eventually the one I do like out of that group is the Phantom Menace one, because it has the saber that it's connected to the arm, but if I pull the back of the saber a little bit, the lightsaber lights up.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of neat on that one. But then it's like, you know, I'm a big fan of the Heir to the Empire series, the book series by Timothy Zahn.
Okay,
I got to meet him back in August. Fantastic guy.
Oh wow.
And unfortunately, I didn't have my original first printing of Heir to the Empire with me. It was here. I was still in Colorado. But I'll see him when he comes. He's, you know, next time he's in Florida, I'll find him and bring that book. So I'd love to. He's like, oh, I'd love to sign that for you, you know, kind of thing. So, but yeah. So meeting him was great. But then you know, I really love the Grand Admiral Thrawn and how he evolved in what's now Legends, and then they've taken a lot of that and put it in the new canon, like from Rebels and stuff. And he wrote some books around the Rebels era and stuff. And now that he's going to be showing up in live action, I mean, it's fantastic. So that's awesome. Yeah, but they made a Thrawn in Sideshow made a Thrawn. That's a good 10 years ago. 12 years ago, when a lot of those Sideshow figures. That's a website I can't go on, because I would be poor. I mean, there's stuff in there. I look at it and it's like, oh my, that's got to come with a divorce attorney, because my wife will leave me.
No, you don't be wanting that. So with Timothy Zahn, then, I know a lot of his stuff and a lot of stuff that other people wrote before Disney. That was all sort of like put to the side, wasn't it? That was made, you know, non-void, wasn't it? That wasn't canon anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the original novels, because I forget how many there was 3 in the original. Then he had a duology after that, and there was a couple others. There's a good 7 books with him in it.
Wow,
he did. And the thing is yes, those are Legends now, but he took a lot of that essence of that character and put them in the new canon novels. And if you're a reader, and anybody who's watching, if you like the novels, I highly recommend the Thrawn novels in the new canon. They are very well done.
Yeah.
The first three, they are timed with his appearances in the Rebels animated show.
Oh wow.
So, but they are fantastic the way it's done. And then they just came out with he did kind of a prequel thing that explained it a little, fleshed him out a little bit more, and really kind of brought him into, like, if in the original Heir to the Empire series, he was just, he was straight up, he was the villain, and he was part of the Empire. He's trying to bring the Empire back. And that was really all you knew about him. But then there were some other novels that, that are legends now, but they fleshed it out. He joined the Empire because he knew there was something coming. And now in Legends, it was the Yuuzhan Vong. It was the race that came from outside the galaxy. And it's a similar thing that he's doing now in the new canon novels, but it's a different alien race. They're called the Grisk.
Okay.
And they're kind of it's a similar thing, but they kind of change it because the Yuuzhan Vong were just so ridiculously overpowered that they destroyed half the galaxy in that in that series. It kind of reminded me with like my friends when we were playing with our toys as a kid, because everyone, you just end up, everybody's got a more powerful weapon for their side to win, and it just gets ridiculous. It's like everything becomes a Death Star.
So with Thrawn, then, is he the only thing that has come from Timothy Zahn that has been put into the new canon, or is there more stuff to come, or do you think there will be more stuff?
I would love for them to bring Mara Jade in. That was another fantastic character, but that was one. She was, starts off as, she's the Emperor's hand. She was an Imperial. She was like an assassin that worked directly for the Emperor. And like he sent her to Jabba's palace. They've kind of retconned a little bit. If you watch Return of the Jedi, there's a girl with like blue hair in the background while Luke's talking to Jabba, and they're like, "Oh, that's her in disguise." That's what they've come up with.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. But she was supposed to. Her job there was to kill Luke, because the Emperor wasn't convinced with Vader, where Vader's allegiance really lied.
Okay.
That's what they in the story. It'll be kind of tough with the way they did the sequel trilogy to bring her back, because they didn't, well, I don't know, because you really don't know much about Luke's time between other, they fleshed it out a little bit in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, but you don't know a whole lot. Did he have a wife, kind of thing, or was he truly like the Jedi and just kind of on his own? So who knows? They could go that route or not. I would love to see. It was another fantastic character. I just loved reading about her. There's an old video game. There was actually an add-on to Knights of the Old, not Knights of the Old Republic. It was Jedi Knight. It was Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight.
Okay.
They made a second little mini game for it. It was called Mysteries of the Sith, where you play the first couple levels as the main hero from Dark Forces, Kyle Katarn, and then the rest. And in that, she's like his apprentice. And then you play the rest of the game as Mara Jade. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Awesome. It's a great game. If you have Steam, it's on there really cheap. I got it off.
Oh, okay. Again. Okay. The thing is, it's like the Star Wars universe is so massive. It's huge.
It's so vast.
It covers comics. It covers novels. It covers movies. It's now covering TV series. It's covering animated series. And the thing is, it's really difficult, I think, for people to keep up, because a lot of people don't read the comics or don't read the novels. So they're missing out on a lot of stories, aren't they? Because of these character developments and stuff like that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think, like, I look at it like there's a hierarchy of the canon. Is like, anything that happens in the movie, that's canon, okay? And then that right below that is your live action TV show, like the stuff on Disney Plus, your live action shows.
Yep.
Then right under that is the animated shows. Then under that's the novels, and then comics and video games and stuff as it goes down. And so, like, you can play I guess recently in I don't know if it was Book of Boba Fett or something, they were like they did something with Ahsoka, and they were like, oh that I think it was the end of the Clone Wars season
Okay.
7, which
Yeah.
the Siege of Mandalore, that was fantastic. I absolutely
Yeah.
just it was great. But they were like, oh, well, this changes the novel. There was an Ahsoka novel that came out, and I don't know if it's Legends or not. And I was like, well, that's a fine. It's the TV show trumps book kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it's kind of neat. Like, there's stuff like if you watch Rogue One, you see the ghost from Rebels, and they mention Hera Syndulla and Chopper rolling around in the background. So
Yeah.
there's neat little
Yeah.
Easter eggs for the people who have seen that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's not like you had to see all of this. You had to watch
yeah.
all this to appreciate the movie, because you could watch Rogue One without seeing a second of Rebels.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still a fantastic thing. I think they've been doing that fairly well with the little Easter eggs here and there. They're diving more into it because Dave Filoni is running a lot of what they call the Mandoverse on Disney Plus, because everything in there is connected. And so it's, that's going to be like you have Jon Favreau, who kind of helped jumpstart the MCU. So it's like, all these shows are connected in a way. And it's like, a lot of people are complaining about Book of Boba Fett. And I get it. I knew that show was going to be divisive when they announced it, because everybody has an idea of what Boba Fett is from, in 1978 or 9, when we all got the figure in the mail, when we mailed away for it. We started making up our own little stories about the guy, because he's only in the entire original trilogy for like 7.5 minutes.
Well, that's it. Listen, I was going to say, people have said that, and I've certainly said that as well. I think it's people's expectations, and
it's fine. I'm not knocking people for being, but I looked at that show as somebody who's watched others. If you've ever watched like The Expanse or Babylon 5, the book of Boba Fett show really reminded me a lot of the first seasons of those shows. It was setting up a lot of other stuff. And I mean, that was some of the people say, like, you look at some of the Marvel movies like Iron Man 2. I mean, a lot of people's complaint about that movie is like, it was just setting up all these other things that were happening later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's going to be a payoff on Book of Boba Fett. And there's going to be a season 2. Because when I was at Comic-Con, when I met Timothy Zahn, I met the guy who plays Kerry Jones, who plays Black Chrysanthemum.
Okay.
I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see in season 2. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe. And I'm like, yeah, it's happening. I know you can't say anything, but I know it's happening.
So, with your collection, do you have a Grail piece? Is there something that you would want above anything else?
There is. I have one thing that I really consider a Grail piece, and it is Master Replicas made a version of Obi-Wan's lightsaber from A New Hope.
Okay.
So the old beat up saber.
Yep.
And I have never been able to get it. I see it on eBay this is one I kind of have to, I have a little trouble getting through the acquisition committee here. it's a bit pricey.
Yeah.
So, but that is the one thing I would like. That's my white whale. I mean, it's like, I want that one because it would look so good next to the rest of my Obi-Wan sabers, and I would have them. And it's, I was talking with a guy, Lee Batten. He's pretty active with Collection Wars, and these guys do a lot of the studio scale models or props or stuff like, a lot of the higher end, Hot Toys and stuff. And great group, great collecting group. But he's like, oh, Corbanth makes that good. I was like, I understand Corbanth makes it, and Corbanth makes great stuff, but it's got to be the Master Replicas one to match the rest of the ones that I have. That's like I said, that's my white whale.
Yeah. Do you think one day it might be added to your collection, or do you think it's just one of those things?
It will happen. It will happen someday. Yeah. It's just going to be. The time's got to be right. I just got to keep. I got to keep watching for it, and it'll happen. I just don't know when.
Yeah. Oh, these Grails, they're great, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. You kind of have to have something like that. Everybody's got to have a Grail piece that it's a motivating thing.
No, definitely, definitely. So, what is your most prized part of the collection? So, if you had to get out in a hurry, is there something that you would take with you, or you could only have one thing? You know, what would it be?
That's tough. I try to think about it because I mean, when it boils down to it, this is all this stuff is just it's stuff. I just
Yeah,
I like as much as I my office when it's my happy place. I come in here and it's just kind of it's my place to
mm,
decompress kind of thing. But I mean, as far as one thing, I don't know. I would say the arcade cabinet behind me here, just because I
okay.
think it'd be funny if the house was burning down, as me running out with that,
Running out with that.
with my elite Obi-Wan saber on my belt, wearing my Mandalorian helmet.
Awesome.
Running
No,
out
that's
because
fair, that's fair enough. Yeah,
somebody better film that.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. But when you say it's just stuff, yeah, it is.
Oh,
When
I
push comes to
understand.
shove, it is just stuff.
I
But
mean, yeah.
you got to have a release. You've got to have something. Do you
Oh
know?
yeah, no, don't get
You
me
got to have
wrong.
something in
I
life.
mean, I
Yeah.
keep this thing around, and like I said, there's not a, it's now a 4 points of articulation figure because I had to glue the head back on. It's this, but every time I look at every time I watch
Yeah.
something new from Star Wars, or I get something, I'm that 6-year-old kid sitting in the theater with the big tub of popcorn sitting next to my dad, because my dad
Yeah.
passed away almost 2 years ago, so it's like, it's one of my happiest memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, every time that's why it was like, people who, they don't like the sequel trilogy. I'm like, I just won't hate on it. And like, granted, it's not the story I would have told.
Yeah.
I would have done things differently, but they didn't ask me. But at the same time, The Last Jedi was the first movie. I mean, I got to take my oldest son to see The Force Awakens in the theater. He was 5 years old. He was roughly the
Yeah.
same age I was when I first saw Star Wars. And I was like, for me, that memory to kind of juxtapose it with,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't give it up for the world. So I mean,
Did he have that same reaction
hate
you
him.
did as a kid?
He that my son he is all my oldest son Colin. He is all into like the walkers. He will watch. He would watch The Empire Strikes Back just to watch the Battle of Hoth.
Wow.
And then and when The Last Jedi came out, he was all about the Praetorian Guards.
Okay.
They thought those were fantastic. He loves the troopers. He loves that stuff. So
Yeah.
and still, I mean, we sit down and we'll watch the Bad Batch together, and we'll watch, it's our Wednesday night thing now. Is like, we're watching Andor. Everybody we're
Yeah.
watching it all as a family kind of thing. My younger son, he's 9. So the first time I got to take him to see a Star Wars in the theater was The Last Jedi. He was about 4, I think.
Okay.
And that one, so it was about the time when I was like, yeah, you can go to the theater and watch the movie with us. And, he finally had the attention span to get through it. And so it's all, but that's the stuff that's special to me. And that's why I won't hate
Yeah.
on those movies. I mean, it gave me a fantastic memory of being,
Mm.
sitting there with, my kids and watching Star Wars in the theater. I was like, just proud dad moment for me.
Yeah. But it's Star Wars for a new generation, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
and I
It's
think I remember when the prequels first came out. A lot of people did
yeah.
not like those. I mean, for God's sakes, people hated on Jar. And this is before social media, but they hated on Jar Jar
Yeah.
Binks so much that
Yeah.
the actor, he
Ahmed
almost committed
Best.
suicide. Yeah, I'm at best.
Yeah, I know.
I met
Yeah.
him at Comic-Con. And the
Yeah.
nicest guy in the world, and he almost offed himself because of that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that's horrible if people think
I
that,
mean,
no,
yeah, I don't agree with
I
that.
don't.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I don't think any
people.
reasonable person does. I just so.
No, no. I mean, people can have their opinion on things and
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
and
I get that, and you might not like a character, but
yeah.
it wasn't his fault. That's how he was
No, he did
directed. That's
exactly
what
what
he was
George
told
Lucas
to
told him
do.
to
He was
do.
exactly,
My
and it's the
biggest.
same with that.
Yeah.
What's her name? Rose Tico from
Oh yeah, no,
The Last Jedi.
I think she did a fine job. She's a great actress, but it's like,
Mm,
I mean, the thing was, it was like, but we could go back. My complaint about the prequels is, one, there's an over reliance on CGI, and I know that
yes.
George
Yeah.
Lucas waited to do something because he wanted aliens that weren't look like people in
Yeah.
suits. He really wanted something
Yeah.
different. And okay, but I mean, it was you look at like, I mean, when they're just in just giant blue rooms trying to imagine something, it's like I can't. That's tough for any actor,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so and my big but my thing with the prequels is there is a very good story there. The problem
Mm,
is George Lucas, who is good at coming up with the big overall story, but he's not a very good director. He's not a very good screenwriter. So if he
mm.
got somebody to help him write this and help this write the scripts and got a good director to get in there and direct,
Yeah,
I think it would have been a lot better, because another thing that he did at that point in his at that point in his career, he was so big, there was nobody around him that was willing to say no, or just, hey George, I see where you're trying to go with this, how about we try it this way.
mm,
There was
yeah.
no one around him that would do that. Everybody around him was just, oh, sure, yeah, that's great,
Well,
and I think it suffered for that. But I mean, you look how hated those movies were from
yeah.
'99 to 2002. Now you know they're not,
Thing is,
because those
you
kids that
saying
saw
that
those have grown up.
you saying that about people not wanting to say no to George Lucas, I think Gary Kurtz was a fine example, because he was
Yeah.
on Star Wars and Empire, and those
Oh
two
yeah.
films were fantastic.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean,
But
Return
I
of the
think
Jedi
he
is great
wanted
too.
he it's a great film, but he wanted it to go in a different direction to what George did.
Yeah.
And I think there was, because Gary Kurtz wasn't involved in Return of the Jedi. And I think
Yeah.
for me, that kind of shows
It was
that he wasn't
also
involved, because
that, and also George Lucas's first wife. I mean, when Return of the Jedi was coming out, that was when they were getting divorced, and she was
yeah,
a very good counterbalance to George Lucas as well.
yeah.
And I'm not hating on George Lucas, but at
No,
the same
no.
time, I mean, the guy's cost me. I mean, how much money is the guy
Yeah,
cost me?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, but
yeah,
in his passion, but I mean, so I'm not. But it's just, I think there are some things. He needed somebody to help fix, where
yeah,
he's weak, and
yeah,
he didn't have that with the prequels. But my point is the kids that saw those movies in the theater are now grown up, and
mm, yeah,
you see a lot of people enjoy them. I think you're going to see. I mean, you're going to see the same thing with the sequel trilogy.
yeah,
And but another thing is another thing that helped the prequels out a lot was the Clone Wars cartoon.
yeah, yeah,
It really kind of fleshed some stuff out. They're doing the same thing with the sequel trilogy now. And it's like just little hints of stuff in The Mandalorian. Like when you see that on the base on Navarro,
yeah,
the Imperial base, and you saw the tanks with stuff in it. And then
yeah,
they had another scene similar to that in the Bad Batch in an old cloning facility from the Kaminoans had on a different planet.
yeah.
You see little hints here and there. And I don't need them to just, I don't need them to tell me every little thing. I don't mind filling the gaps myself.
Yeah,
But little hints here and there, yeah, I'm cool with that. Flesh it out a little bit more. I'm fine with
definitely.
that. See something like, there's a hint of there's some darkness out there in the outer rim,
Mm,
or beyond in the unknown regions that we don't know about. That it's there, that they know about it, because
yeah,
the First Order is being built in the unknown regions in the time of the Mandalorian, because it's after the Battle of Jakku and
yeah.
stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of cool stories to be told there, and I think they'll get to it eventually, and just you still have like the people that hate on it for profit.
Well, the thing
And
is, some
they get
people
those
you just
clicks.
can't please anyway, isn't there? So you're not
No,
going to
and
please
that's fine.
everybody.
I'll let them do it. But I mean, but there is definitely the people that just hate on it because they get the clicks, and
Yeah.
everybody's going to make a buck, right?
Well, I get that. Yeah, yeah. I know where you're going with that, but yeah, I get that. So you have a YouTube channel.
I do.
What made you decide to do a YouTube channel, and who were your influences?
Well, it was kind of weird how I started it at first. At first, it was like it was in 2019, October 2019. We took the kids on a trip. We went to Disneyland, Universal Studios, Legoland in California, and stuff. And we booked this stuff like a year in advance, and it was we couldn't tell the kids because they wouldn't talk about anything else until we actually went.
Yeah.
So they found out we were going to Disneyland as we're pulling into Disneyland. Same thing with Legoland and all that.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, but so I'm filming their reactions as we're pulling in, as they're figuring out what's going on, and I wanted to share it with my family. And I was like, but I couldn't just text the video that long. So I was like, geez, I've got a YouTube account. I'll just upload it to YouTube. And yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like there's one thing from Universal Studios there, and it's got me like 70 some odd subscribers. It's the boys are meeting Bumblebee, and there's got to be like 70 some odd people. It's gotten like 40,000 views. It's ridiculous, and I'm like, boy, these people are going to be real disappointed when I realize this isn't a Transformers channel. So I did that, and then it was stuff like I got like my Mandalorian helmet from Anovos, and I've been a member of the forums on Jedi Defender for almost 20 years now, and before that it was Rebel Scum, but I left that for a disagreement with the owner, and but we were I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm going to review this for these guys, because I mean a lot of it's mainly the action figures, but they have forums for everything in there, and I was like, wow, this helmet's really cool, and I want to show it off. And I was like, and I didn't think pictures were going to do it justice, so I sat there with my phone and I made a little video and I posted it there, and that took off and a thing. And then it was like I did another one for my Revan Saber, my Black Series Revan Saber, and it was like, I was doing reviews to put on Jedi Defender. And so then it was like, I look at stuff like I was watching a lot of like Boss Bounty, Nick, Only One Kenobi, all those guys, the USR guys are great, all those guys. I was watching that stuff and I was like, it's neat. And it's like, I've been doing this for a while, and I looked at stuff and it was like, I end up doing a lot of like reviews, like, oh, I just got this in and this is what it looks like. And I'll do that. But I mean, a lot of the videos I do more of, like it was like the Legacy ATST has a problem. It has a problem standing. The legs. There's a joint in the ankle and we had a way to fix it. You put a washer in there and stuff, and it was like, and we had a step-by-step instruction in the Jedi Defender forums, and I was like, I'm going to make a video of this. Maybe I can reach more people if I put it on YouTube. Or just a way to show it instead of just, for the visual learners, you want to see how it's done. I'll do that. And then it was like another one is like, like my Darth Maul saber from Master Replicas. There's these little O-ring seals on them, and they tend to dry rot. And it was like, I went online, looked around and find a way to replace it, and it was easy enough. So I'll do that. So, so for the, so a visual way for people to see it, and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And it just kind of just went from there. And it's like, it's like, I always look at my channel as it's kind of a creative outlet for me, because especially from the time with COVID and stuff like that, everybody was kind of sitting around and wasn't really able to go anywhere, no new movies or anything like that. So it's like, this would be kind of just a fun little creative outlet to do. And it's like, and I've always treated my channel as if one person watches the video and gets something out of it, whether it's that would look good in my collection, or that I want that, or I don't, maybe that's not for me, or, great. That's all I care. If it helps one person, I'm fine. I don't need, as awesome it would be to have like 100,000 subscribers and have YouTube send me a plaque and everything else. I'm never gonna monetize the channel. Any of that. And I don't knock people that do. It's just, my preference. One of my themes is we all collect differently, and we all do things differently. And I actually celebrate the differences. Like I'm looking at your collecting, at all that G.I. Joe and stuff like that, or like Luke at Reynolds Reviews. I talk about it because he's like a ton of mask figures and stuff. He's really into mask as well. And I'm like, those are great, but it was like, I didn't have G.I. Joes as a kid. I didn't have masks as a kid. And I think they're fantastic, but I'm not going to collect them. But so I'll live vicariously through you guys on that, so we all collect differently, and we all do, whether you're in box or you open, or, you get the ships, or not, it's different character focuses, whatever it is. I love to hear from other people. I'm always begging for people to comment on my videos, what you like, what you don't like. And it's like, I would love to have those kind of conversations. One of the best things that happened is recently is I was able to open a community tab on my YouTube channel. And I'm like, I'm going to start throwing stuff up there left and right just to get conversations going, because I just love the community. I've seen like the generosity of other people, helping collectors, helping collectors is one of those things that just really warms my heart. It's like,
Mm.
I love seeing that. Can't see enough of it.
No,
So
definitely,
it's just,
definitely.
so
I mean,
my,
I think
yeah.
so I was going to say I'm very much like you, as in the fact of like the way I look at it is that there's no right way of collecting. There's no wrong way of collecting. Every collection is personal
Oh,
to that
absolutely.
person. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty much like you. That's why I like doing what I'm doing now with this series. It's because
Oh, and
I'm
I've
getting to
loved it.
speak. I'm getting to speak to different people. We're all collectors, but everybody, like you say, collects differently. Everybody's collection is different, and just seeing those different collections is like you can say, like Only-One Kenobi. I mean, I've not spoken to him yet,
Yeah.
as in on this series, but how he displays his um,
Yeah.
figures and his collection, and and everybody's collections, they're just fantastic. And like I say, I just love speaking to people about their collections, why they got into collecting, and
Oh,
so
it's great. And
the
honestly, I get
community is
ideas.
awesome.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes you get ideas from other people. Like, you'll have a lot of
yeah,
people. They'll have it. It's almost, I call it like museum pieces, where they have everything lined up. They have each figure like in order, whatever they're
yeah,
doing. And it's great. And it's
yeah.
like, I've had all these different shelves. If you look at the shelves in my room tour, it's like I was like,
Mm,
as great as that is, where people do that, I was like, I want to do something different. And it was like, I was in the
yeah,
military for so long, and it was like, I'm going to do all the ground battles. So I had like, I have like the Battle of Endor, and I made a video how I changed, because I was like, I just really had a bunch of stormtroopers in the bunker and the rebels off
yeah,
to the side, the Ewok. I was like, so I changed it to just pure mayhem, where it was like there's Ewoks like spearing stormtroopers. I just made it ridiculously over the top. But I also or I have like the land battle from the Phantom Menace on the Naboo. I have
yeah,
the Battle of Hoth, and then I had another one. It's like TIE fighters and stuff. I was trying to figure out a way to do like different space battles or whatnot. But
mm,
so it's always fun. Like, the table in the middle of the room was a rebel hangar, or everybody's kind of. I was make it like so they're all
yeah,
scrambling to take off or whatnot. So it was a lot of fun to do stuff like that. But then I did have other stuff where I just lined up like, I have a shelf of like all just like the different politicians, because or I have a
yeah,
Jedi, or just the Sith, and a couple other little. There was like a parallel one where it was like, it's like where Vader from Revenge of the Sith, where they're putting the suit on him, and then
okay, yeah,
right next to it was Luke in the bacta tank from Empire Strikes
yeah,
Back. So I was like
yeah,
kind of paralleling different things like that. So like I took my vintage Death Star and I loaded it with like, I've got Grand Admiral Thrawn up on the command level, and it's like I actually put Moff Gideon in there, and there's Death Troopers and Shore Troopers, all kinds of different guys from Legends and stuff like that in there. It was like any
yeah,
kind of Imperial I could jam in there. It was a lot of fun to do, and just doing different stuff like that, and like, or
yeah,
just taking like my vintage Dagobah play set, and I have like Luke training with Yoda on there, and and I
yeah.
have like Obi-Wan's ghost standing there and stuff like that. Just making fun little scenes like that, instead of just but I mean, as much as I like how other people do stuff, it was this was kind of fun for me.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
it. I mean, like you say, that's you got to do
oh
what
yeah,
what you enjoy doing, and what it's. But I like you, I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching other people's channels and seeing how they do things and
oh yeah,
what they like and what they don't like, and it's so diverse collecting. It's it's like I say, there's no wrong or right way. It's completely a personal choice. So moving on to collecting, as in the next question, what gives you that toy collecting buzz?
uh, it's fun. It's gonna sound a little weird, but it's like when you get a new figure or something like that, and it's just, a lot of this is because like, uh, you know, everything in here is like, it's like memories applied to it. Like, Star Wars takes me back to being that 6-year-old kid. Is really
Yeah,
when I get a new figure, the smell of a new action figure, because it's linked so much to scent, is so linked to memory and stuff. I just that's one thing I really like to do, is like get a new one. And, I know it's a little weird, but
no,
I do like that. I love the smell of a brand new action figure.
that is one
put
thing
it
I
in there.
haven't done yet, and that is sniff the new pack, a new
Uh,
open figure. I've not done that yet, and I don't know
yeah,
why. It just
yeah,
never crosses my mind. But
yeah. That's gonna
so
be the one
sniffing
that
figures gives
it's
you the buzz.
that I'm not huffing it like it's glue, but just yeah, it's when you open up
No, I
like
know what
me,
you mean.
it's like
Yeah,
this. You get a new book, the smell of a new book, or the
yeah,
smell of a new
yeah,
car. I mean, it's like I said, I have no inexpensive hobbies. I have this, then I have a Jeep, which Jeep stands for just empty every pocket. I have a private pilot's license. You know, I have no inexpensive
Wow.
hobbies.
Yeah,
But
it sounds like it. Wow.
so it's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I love like the smell of a new car, the smell of a new book, action figure. Yeah, yeah, it really is kind of one of those things. It's just like it's it's like I said, because scent is very linked to memory, and
Yeah.
so I think that really does. It's all of a sudden I'm
So,
that 6-year-old kid in the theater again.
so did you do that as a kid then? When you got your figures and you took them off the cards, did you
Well,
sniff your figures
I don't
or
think
you did them?
I don't remember when it started, kind of thing. You
Yeah.
probably just notice it, it's not like I was doing that, but it's just like, yeah, it's not like I was doing that as a kid, but you just kind of notice those things like later on.
Yeah. Was you a kid that kept the card backs to your cards? Did you take, or did you just throw them away?
I do still have some. At first, I didn't. And it's
Yeah.
even still. I mean, I get like the modern figures, the vintage collection. I take the figures, I open them. I open everything pretty much, with the
Yeah.
exception of some things. I do have some things I do keep on the package, some special ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I do save the cards. I'm trying to figure out a way to I don't know how I'll display. I'm thinking I'm just going to get a binder and put all the cards in order in in binders.
Yeah.
And something like that. But yeah, I do have a bunch of, mostly from Return of the Jedi. Some of the cards,
Okay.
some of them still even have
Yeah.
the bubble on them. But that's when I
wow.
started getting careful about, I wasn't just ripping the thing open anymore. It was
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, still have the bubble on. It's not in the best of condition. So a lot of the cards they had the proof of purchases cut out because I was mailing away for something. But I do have I do still have some of those. And a matter of fact, it was like I was going back. I think I was talking about some vintage stuff, and I actually have like an old 77 back card that I'm looking at the back of on it and stuff. So
yeah. How cool.
it's in a couple of my videos somewhere. I don't remember what I was talking
I
about.
I miss those original cards. Those
Yeah.
original Star Wars kind of cards. I really do miss
Well, I mean,
those
luckily,
cards.
luckily they are like they're doing a pretty good job with these cards now. The
Yeah.
with the vintage collection.
What I wish they would do is when you've got when they release, say, like a figure from the original 96 kind of figures, they have exactly the same on the back as what they did on those original cards. With the yellow background
the card
as
backs
the
now.
figures.
Yeah, the card.
Just to do that with the original 96 kind of figures,
Oh.
that would be awesome. You don't need it for the Book of Boba Fett figures or Mandalorian or any of the other movies. Just the original trilogy figures.
Yeah, do that with the 96, but have the modern version of that figure in there. That would look,
how cool
that's
would that be?
great idea. Oh, God, I hope somebody from Hasbro Marketing is watching this. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I doubt it, but yeah. But yeah, I that would be.
There's a one girl in their marketing department. God bless her, but I mean, I don't think she's ever seen Star Wars.
Yeah, you get that.
I swear, the marketing department is like, guys, did you watch any of this?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Definitely makes you wonder.
I don't know.
Right, we're coming to the top of the hour. This has flown by, as it always does.
Kidding.
I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
Matt, what does your collection mean to you?
It's just kind of like, when I have everything in here and everything else, it's just a kind of a way for me to, a lot of nostalgia. But at the same time, it's just kind of my way to just kind of take a break from everything in life, and just like kind of refocus, it's just kind of, I can sit here and I can just look around, and it's, when I have everything set back up, and it's just, it's memories of, I remember when, I got this, or again, a lot of this stuff brings me back to that 6-year-old kid in the movie theater in 77, watching that Star Destroyer come over your head. Oh yeah. It's just, so it's a lot of that. And then, it's a lot of like, heck, I just got this today, so it's another great, I love playing video games and stuff. So like the Republic Commando video game was so much fun. And I'm dreading how much Scorch is going to cost when they finally release him, because I got a feeling that's going to be the deluxe figure of the bunch. So, but it's, so it's, it's just, for me, it's that. It's just, a lot of the memories. I'm like, you know, I remember like, you know, I remember us waiting all day to see Empire Strikes Back in the theater when it first came out. You know, we're like
Yeah.
lined up in the mall. It was the theater was in the mall, and it was like we sent my mom down to the other side of the mall to get pizza. So we were all sitting in line because we had to wait in line to get tickets, and you had to wait in line to get in the theater. And
Wow.
because it was all day just kind of hanging out there. But it was
What
so much fun.
what was your reaction? What was your reaction when you saw Empire Strikes Back and Vader come out with those words, "I am your father"?
Oh, I
What was
just
your
dropped
reaction to
it.
that?
You could feel, and I still remember it when it happened. It was like you could feel the oxygen leave the room because everyone just went, you know, they kept that. You know, it's so much harder to keep that a secret these days with the internet and everything else. But
Yeah.
even back then,
Yeah.
it was like when they told like Mark Hamill, I was like, all right, nobody else on the set really knew. It was Irvin Kershner, George Lucas, and Mark Hamill. So it's like, if this gets out, we
Yeah.
know it was you, kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know. And so yeah, I mean, just that, and a lot of things is like, and I tell my kids, you had to wait 3 years to find out what happened. Like, I was a big Han Solo fan, you know. I was like, when I was a kid, it was like I wanted to fly the Millennium Falcon. I was like, that was like the best thing when we went to Galaxy's Edge for the first time, and I got to
Yeah.
sit left seat in the Falcon. Oh, with
Awesome.
at the first time it was my oldest kid sitting next to me. We're flying. It was the best. I was like, I had to sit there when the ride was over for a minute, just going, I'm sitting left seat in the Falcon. You know, I just need a
how
minute.
cool.
If you
How
don't mind,
cool.
I need a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, so I was like, you know, I had to wait you know, and they blew it in the trailer. I was like, you know, that Han Solo gets out of the carbonite flag. You know,
Yeah.
it was like, you know, just like, oh, what happens to Han Solo? Is, you know, there was a, you know, because we were sitting there, there's no, you know, they're like, you know, there's a lot of times we're thinking, no, Vader's lying to him just to get Luke off his game. That's not true.
Yeah.
And at the same time, no, it could be true. You know, no, I can totally see it. You know, kind of thing. Because you think about the patterns, of, you know, the things that George Lucas borrowed from. You know, like
Yeah.
Kurosawa and all this stuff. You know, so
Yeah.
I could totally see that, you know, the bad guy's actually the good guy's father. You know, kind of thing. So you know that kind of twist. So it was, you know, so it was like, you know, but it was like, oh my god, you know, but for 3 years you didn't really know if it was true. And so it was
It's so awesome.
yeah,
So
yeah,
awesome.
it was, I mean, that was like the worst 3 years of my life. Age 9 to 12 trying to figure that one.
Oh God! See, the memories that I wish I had would have been going to see Star, because I was too young to see Star Wars when it first came out. So I would have loved to have sat there on the big screen for the first time watching that Star Destroyer come over. I think I would have, you know, like most people, lost their mind.
It was, I mean, that was another one of those things because you didn't see stuff like that back then.
Yeah.
You know, it was very different. Science fiction and fantasy, they were very different. I mean, the big films in that back then, other than Jaws, I mean, most of them were westerns.
Yeah.
And you know, so it was that kind of thing. It was, you know, it was so different. It was such a game changer for the genre.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's amazing. It was, yeah, it was a lot of fun back then.
Awesome,
you know,
stuff. Awesome, Matt. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of the chat. It has been absolutely amazing chatting to you. Really appreciate.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for asking.
No, you're welcome, man. It's been a lot of fun, and this was definitely a nostalgia type, especially from where I'm sitting anyway. Star Wars is my bread and butter for collecting. Where can people find you on social media?
The best place is probably my YouTube channel, Matt's Collection. There's an Instagram, but it's I posted that. It's mostly memes, and it's just kind of joking around. But I mean, if you wanted to contact me direct, like you know, message me there. I definitely respond to people.
Okay,
and
cool.
You know, stuff.
What
like
I'll
that,
do is I shall leave a description of your YouTube channel and your Instagram account in the description below. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's the first time we've actually like chatted like properly.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
I know we've been Instagramming and stuff like that, but again, really enjoyed talking to you, mate. And you are welcome on the channel anytime, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it, because honestly, this is the best part about having a YouTube channel, and is just talking with other collectors. I honestly can't get enough of it. It's absolutely fantastic to do.
Awesome.
So definitely appreciate having me on.
No, loved every minute of it, mate. Thank you so much. Like I say, these just go by so quick, and sometimes I don't think that the episode is long enough. But again, I don't want it to be too long where people are.
No, I understand.
switching off.
It's a balancing act.
So yeah, it definitely is. But all I've got left to say is thank you very much for watching, guys and girls, and we shall see you in the next one. Today it's been Matt from Matt's Collection. Absolute pleasure, mate. So thank you again, and take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.